Hi, Chloe. This is Linda. Thank you so much for submitting your essay, and I'm really grateful for your patience with me in getting this back to you. I hope this feedback will be helpful. First of all, I want to tell you that your format looks pretty good. The only thing that I would suggest is that um, that you have your essay double spaced. It's standard practice in college to double space essays unless your instructor does not want you to. And they usually tell you that, but for English classes, it's pretty standard to do the double space because that's the MLA standard. And it's usually standard for APA also, for especially for academic publications. Just I think it's mainly to help us with having room for editing. So that's the only thing. Oh, and then one other thing is instead of not having a title, I'm sure because this is a rough draft, I would like for you to create a title, uh, um, something that is related to your topic. Um, I also want to compliment you on your apparent gift with language and words. You have a very good vocabulary and an interesting way of phrasing things. And reading through your essay was fun. I kind of felt, even though I don't get to meet you face to face, that a sense of your personality by the language that you use, it comes across very strong, and that's really nice. So I'm just going to show you really quickly what this looks like from my end. There's two colors I use. There's red and there's green. The red highlights indicate areas that maybe need some help, a little bit of coherence, maybe grammar or something like that. So you'll notice there's not a lot of red. There's more red at the beginning than at the end. I think that's just because I got caught up in the narrative. So that doesn't mean that there aren't any other grammar issues. It's just that your narrative was engaging enough. We'll go back through, and if I catch anything, I'll mark those. The green sentences are probably more important. The green sentences represent what I think is your overall focus for the essay, like kind of like what is the message that you're trying to get across to the reader. And what I try to look for is at least one solid message per paragraph, like one controlling idea per paragraph. And then if I were to line these sentences all up together afterwards, that I might be able to put them together and come up with, oh, this is what the message is of what this writer wants me to know. So you'll notice that there are some paragraphs that don't have those green sentences in it, and that's not necessarily a problem, but we just want to kind of check those to make sure that it's not superfluous information, that you're actually giving information that's all on point, so that you're not just using, laying words down that don't really go to your overall message. Okay, so let's just talk very quickly about some of these things. Here, the very first sentence, I'll be honest, it's problematic. It's kind of like you started in the middle of a story here, and I think what you need to do is remember that the purpose of the first sentence is to be some sort of a hook or an attention grab. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do that. You can do that with telling a story, by asking a question, giving a fact. These are kind of some standard practice. What I think you're doing is setting the stage, creating a picture here. This is the first. It's more effective after the first sentence than it is in that first sentence. And so maybe really what that is, maybe that sentence belongs at the end of the first paragraph rather at the beginning. So let's just listen to it, how it sounds. It was a mild day on the tail end of an otherwise sweltering August, and I was nothing short of terrified. That's a great first sentence. Waiting was undoubtedly the toughest part. I'd rehearsed countless times, sure, but now, sure, I'd rehearsed countless times. Let's take out that's a conversational sure. Like you're talking to me, we don't need that. I'd rehearsed countless times, but now anxiety's cruel hand jumbled my thoughts, and I could hardly remember walking through the door, much less recall how I planned to answer the interview questions. Now, you do need to introduce the idea that you're at Starbucks. So then if you put this sentence at the end of here, had I been the manager who ultimately decided that I was the prime candidate for a position at his tight-knit Starbucks store, the only reason I would have done so would be out of sheer pity. Actually, that really works. You have Starbucks right in there. So I think that you really should just move this sentence, move this sentence down to the end. Um, just because I think it functions much better as a controlling idea sentence than it does as a hook. And after that, then you go into your next part. About 2 weeks prior, I'd been to a party, lots of good detail, and then here's the controlling idea. The last thing I heard from your father was this phrase that was incredibly rude, sorry, and also motivating, strangely motivating. And that's what you said here. And thus my quest to prove him wrong began. I'd researched a bit when I told I was selected for an interview. Now, this is confusing. What did you research? So uh, let's let me just mark that off here. And then let's come down here. Okay, provide more information. What did you research? Were you researching jobs? Were you researching the particular Starbucks? I don't know what you were researching. And then that's when you were told you were selected for an interview. I suppose it was in hopes that doing so would grant me the upper hand over the other candidates. Okay, so you researched because you wanted to prove your knowledge about the company. So once again, we know, more information. Okay, so what I notice here, just I can kind of see this, is that this paragraph is a little bit shorter. It doesn't have as much development as the other paragraphs do. So that's something that you can kind of tell also by paragraph length. So just more information. And then I will never regret doing so. When I was a child, I was desperate to find what I was good at. Now, there needs to be a connection between this paragraph and this paragraph. So we're lacking a transition. Let's see. So you need to have transitions between paragraphs. So regardless, I will never regret doing so. Okay, the company mission, I'll be honest, sound like a bunch of empty words there to fill the page. Regardless, I held on to it. I'm assuming you held on to that mission that was to nurture. I wanted to be inspirational. I wanted to nourish the human spirit. I wanted to make a difference. So I never regretted, getting this job. And the reason, because as a child, I just was desperate to find out what I was good at. You kind of get that, like you want to expand this out a little bit more so that when I read this next sentence, they can understand that you are searching, that you're looking for something. And to this day, I'm not sure how that was born. And you kind of go through all these little moments of life where you felt like a failure, but I also, want to point out that you also were like very young and very driven, it sounds like. So, and this is a great sentence, how you evolved from an unemployed 18-year-old to a barista trainee that thrust into a terrifyingly fast environment all at once. Somehow my shaking hands and waving voice didn't hinder me that day, and as Tepper rolled in. Okay, so that all works. I didn't know the first thing about coffee, and I hadn't, okay, so this is an awkward verb. I didn't have a sliver of confidence to work from. Okay, so let's see, I don't think I can change this. So change this verb. Change the verb. Okay, that verb's not working. I cried. Okay, I love this. This is one of my favorite paragraphs. And if I let's see. So I just I like to kind of like highlight my favorite part. It really reads well. You've got a lot of good parallel structure in here. I cried when I allowed the steam to, and all these wonderful details. I cried when I shook the iced tea so vigorously. I cried when I had a remake of Frappuccino. I love this. And eventually it all stuck. I would say it clicked. I don't know. I'm not sure I believe myself there, but from a grammatical standpoint, that's what you need to do. But eventually, okay, now you can't just say it, you need to define it. But eventually, um, everything I needed to do, or all the tricks of the trade, um, something like that stuck. And then it clicked. Muscle memory developed along with my confidence. Take off this comma. We don't want this comma here. You just get rid of that comma, okay? And you learn, and I love this part. You learn to engage customers. Um, this became not just about making coffee. This was about fostering relationships. Now, when it was this way for Melissa, she was fostering relationships, creating inspired moments, building conversations, and I wanted to do exactly that. Okay, so parallel structure would say she was fostering relationships, creating inspired moments, building connections. Oh wait, you did it right. I wanted to create a ripple effect that would spread positivity as far as I could, as I could, as far as I could will it to go. Will it? Okay. And I was fascinated that I could do so by merely sending away a handcrafted latte with a delighted customer. Okay, nice. Days turned into weeks. You became a trainer. Um, I wanted to know them as people. I wanted to do for them what this job had done for me. This is beautiful. I'd had plenty of me. Now, I want to just go down here. When you went from this like everything was really satisfactory, and what I would recommend is that you switch the order of this first sentence, because the but is a good way for you to tell the reader, wait a minute, things are going to change, and you have the but in the middle, and so it kind of the direction the essay goes from here is a little bit uh, like disconcerting, because the reader's not prepared for it. So I would just say, but for some reason, the darkness I'd felt long ago crept into my brain once again. Although I'd had plenty of meaningful encounters with customers over the course of my years, I became discouraged with my work and convinced myself that I had accomplished nothing. Can you hear the difference there? So now I know as a reader that things have shifted, and that when you come into this conversation with Mike and you use this wonderful dialogue, that you're kind of in a different place now. And I love this right here, in this whole story. But I can say that I only lasted 10 days away from my job. I am interested to know, maybe if you want to talk a little bit about this job, like, what else did you go do? And then you come down here to your end and kind of what Starbucks has done for you. And so the literacy here is, I mean, yeah, coffee is your literacy, but the literacy is the relationships, the engagement, the nourishing, the nurturing. Obviously, the vocabulary and the ability to share yourself with others is coming across really strong in this essay. This is a fabulous essay. You are a gifted writer, and it's going to come out as a lot longer than 4 pages when you do double space it. So I do want you to kind of like go back through it and see if there's anything that you can take out, because ideally it should sit at 4 to 5 pages double spaced. And so if there's any like extra details that just don't need to be in there, things that you can edit down a little bit, be judicious in that so that we don't end up with like a 7 to 8 page paper. Okay? All right. Thank you, Chloe. And again, thank you for your patience.